Okay, thank you very much, Pamela. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, my able branch chairman, as well as all of the leaders on the call. I'd like to stand on existing protocol. My immense appreciation to the Ondo State branch for finding me worthy to speak with them at this auspicious occasion. Kindly confirm that you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you clearly, ma'am.
Okay, all right, that works. Okay, thank you very much. So I'd like we have about how many people on the call? I think last I checked, we over 50 people on the call. Just before we dive into speaking on HR strategies for employee experience in a changing future of work, I'd like us to just have a quick conversation, just a quick conversation on the term the future of work, because I'm sure looking at all of the participants on the call, this our current reality was probably not an expected future about 10 years ago. So when we're speaking to the term future of work, what do we think? What do we expect from the future of work? So I just like to see in the chat room, can we share what do we expect from the future of work? What do we think the future of work will look like? So just very quickly, what's your expectation from the future of work? Do we see AI like it's been touted that artificial intelligence is going to take a lot of our jobs? Do we see robots? Survivor? Okay. Okay. Thank you, Shegu Oladosu. Okay. What else do we expect from the future of work? Do we see it being more of the same of same? It looks like the future is already here, and we are grappling to catch up. AI, machine learning, HR agents, etc. Thank you, Pamela. A more flexible, tech-driven workplace. Thank you, Adebayo. Abimbola says technology-driven workplace, compassionate leadership. Interesting. Continuous learning employee. Thank you, Abimbola. Okay, I'd like for us to a flexible workplace. Okay, I'd like for us to keep it coming. VUCA world. Yeah. Okay, thank you, Badebo. So if we look at all that has been shared and still continues to be shared, we will see stepping up to versatile as it relates to learning AI. Thank you. Okay, I think I'll just take Buki. We'll see that the future of work is here already, like Pamela said. And like someone said, this current reality that we had, it was probably unexpected in the past. So this current reality and the future that we expect, really, it remains to be seen that, okay, so what's going to actually drive this future of work? Our roles as HR professionals going to be obsolete and be taken over by robots 1x or robots 10x? Or how are we going to remain relevant in the future of work? And which is why I particularly like the topic that has been put before me today to say HR strategies for employee experience in a changing future of work. Because there's one thing that is certain, we're going to be probably going to be working a lot more with robots, artificial intelligence, and all that. But then there's another thing that is also certain. The current population, such as it is still, we're going to have people still in the workplace. So we're going to be working with people and then with artificial intelligence, with robots, or whatever term that, whatever developments that we've gotten to in the future. So how are you going to make a difference? How are you going to differentiate yourself? What is that little extra that you're going to put in place as an HR professional? Because currently, in the present day of work, the all routine tasks can be taken over. So it depends on your organization's level of skill up. So what is now that is going to make a difference, that's going to separate you from the administrative assistant, the personnel manager of the past? Shoduke Fumilaya says the future of work will be more of AIs and HR, be more technological driven. New roles will emerge, skills will matter, not decrease. Global and inclusive workforce of predominance. Thank you. I love all that. And that all is just to create a basis for the conversation that we're going to have today. So, what is employee experience? What are the future of work trends that would impact employee experience? And then what are the strategic HR priorities to ensure we have every employee has a good employee experience? We're going to look at sector-specific tailored strategies, technology as an enabler, and of course, measuring and improving, and then what is the call to action for each and every one of us as HR leaders. Just a minute, please. Okay, sorry, there was some interference and I needed to alert them. Okay, so moving on, what is employee experience? What is our current future of work? This slide speaks to our current future of work, that we've our current and our future of work really. Currently, we work from anywhere. Work location is anywhere. Yesterday I was speaking with my sister and she said, oh, her husband started his leave yesterday. And I was like, okay, so is he on leave or is he on what is he working from home? My brother-in-law works in consulting. And of course, you know how crazy that can be. So for every one of us, work location is everywhere. And then with COVID-19, a lot has come with post-COVID job transitions. A lot of people are now looking at impact over profit. So it's not only about how much you can pay, but it's also what's the impact of your role. We emerged from COVID-19 and we saw a lot of people rethinking their role to say, what exactly is the purpose of this job that I'm doing? Is it just to make ends meet, run the rat race until retirement? What is the impact in actual terms? How does it touch lives? We saw an e-commerce boom. So the way we shop, and it created new roles. Yeah, logistics used to be a role that was predominantly meant for the manufacturing companies, but we now see different people getting into the logistics value chain, seeing that there are other roles that can be created. Things like drop shipping, roles that were available at that time, but they weren't as predominant as it is right now. Virtual assistants, I see a lot of virtual assistants on LinkedIn, and it's something that is really catching on. So many roles. And then we also have the super spread of automation. Automation has really spread across various organizations. You don't even particularly have to particularly buy a certain software or something. Automation is something that is readily available in the palm of your arm. You just need to, so on WhatsApp, you just need to ask something. So if you start typing on WhatsApp and you need any help, you can just easily get it at the tip of your fingers. You don't necessarily have to go and run 100 miles. On Twitter, you have Grok, Google, you have Gemini. There's so many virtual assistants available, ready to automate several things that you could not automate in the past. So what is employee experience? Employee experience is the sum total of an employee's interaction with the organization. And it always starts even way before the employee assumes on their first day of their role assumption. So it starts with the acquisition process, the recruitment process. So when you reach out to an employee or when an employee is applying to you, they're definitely going to do their own background check. They're going to go on forums like LinkedIn, Glassdoor to find out what are your employees saying about the organization. They're going to do a random Google search to find out, okay, so what even are your investors, your vendors? What is it that is being said about your organization? And right now, like it said in the PR world that every publicity is good publicity. In the world of work as well, it has come to state that if there's nothing about your organization online, that's actually a red flag. So which in a way translates to every publicity is good publicity. So yes, you may have some missteps, you may have some disgruntled employees, but there actually has to be something that an employee can say, okay, Chidima Enterprises, this is what they do, this is how they do it. And if there's nothing about Chidima Enterprises online, that's a red flag. It's probably a scam, or there's something wrong with that organization. So the employee experience starts if way before the employee even accepts your offer. We come to the interview process. So how are your hiring managers treating employees in the course of the interview process? I always tell my hiring managers that it's not an inquisition. If you've asked the candidate a question and you've redirected, and perhaps the candidate is not getting it or is not giving you the answers you want, move on. Don't badger any candidates, really. It's not the same way you are evaluating them to hire them. It's the same way they're also evaluating you, because they're saying, if this is the guy or the lady I'm coming to come and work with, from the interview process, I would rather not. So that is also part of the employee experience. And then they go through the selection process, they accept or they reject your offer based on whatever indices across the process. And then they come into the organization from the onboarding process. How do you make them feel? And it's not just about HR. It's also not just about the hiring manager. You hear people say, oh, um, I got a feel of how the organization will be from the way maybe I interacted with somebody at the lunchroom, or I try to make a copy, or try to print something, and none of my team members were available, and I couldn't find anybody to help me, and all that. So it's also the way your other employees interact with the employee. And then also there's something that somebody taught me way back at the beginning of my career. He said, when you join an organization, you can easily assess how well the organization will treat you or not by how well or not their most senior executives in the organization look. So if you see the most senior executive, not the MD, by the way, because of course we all know that the at that level the compensation usually varies. No, you take out the MD and you look at the most senior executive, and then you see how well or not that they are looking, and how they are also their testament of the organization. That you can judge and assess to say, okay, would that be me in 20 years? Would that be me in 10 years, in 15 years? So that is an employee experience. So it's not just about saying, oh, right, I have come, you're welcome. Our culture is this. There's TGIF every Friday. There's that. All those are good perks, really, but it's the little things that also matter. So when the employee assumes, is he going to come into, or is he or she going to come into a situation where their work system is not ready, their workplace is not ready? Maybe when the person assumes, you keep them in the reception for like 2 hours because you're trying to get their workspace ready, or you bring them into their workspace and then you give them an old dilapidated laptop. That's not to say that organizations cannot reuse, but even when you are reusing something, the presentability of that item has to also be taken into consideration. So what's the physical environment? How conducive? Little things like you have power challenges, or the AC is directly on an employee's head. And in some organizations, I think they deliberately do that, or not, maybe not deliberately. So what happens in some organizations is, because nobody wants to sit directly under the AC, so Adam has resigned, and just before we bring in Eve, Cain will quickly relocate, such that the only available position for Eve that is coming in is directly under the AC. and, and that is Eve's first experience of the organization. So a key takeaway from this is that also needs to be taken into consideration at the office design time, because it's actually not fair for anybody, whether old or new, to be sitting directly under the AC, or in a role in a place that is not well lit, or sitting with old dilapidated furniture, and they quickly change it before the new hire comes in. So those are some of the little things that drive the employee experience. And it speaks to productivity, it speaks to retention, it speaks to how well the employee is going to innovate. Because if you have the old hands telling the employees, oh, we don't do that here, Anything that you mentioned, we don't do that here. Oh, the employee asks you, why are you asking me for 2 copies of my CVs and all that? Shouldn't we be going digital? All of this paper documentation that you're asking me from, at some point in the future, you're going to need to digitize and you're going to need to pay for it. Why don't I just send you soft copy of all these documents and you warehouse it on your SharePoint or your OneDrive, and you say, no, I need to cite the originals? The employee is already looking at you like, okay, that already tells the employee what kind of organization the person is coming into. That's not to say you should not do your due diligence, but honestly, is it the watermark? I'm yet to see the value in that citing the original versus looking at the digital copy. Because when you're also sending for validation to some of the international bodies, it's a digital copy you're sending, and that is what they will validate. So what is the value of citing the original? That is something for us to be taking. So these are some of the small things that actually inform the employee experience. And then we already know in the world of today, it's not like the previous worlds. So every time I have a new certification, my mom, who is a retired teacher, she retired after 35 meritorious years of service, would always tell me, oh, you need to go and laminate it so that you can, you would not, the print will not wear off and everything. And every time I would tell her that, okay, so all of that is not necessary again. I already have a scanned copy, blah, blah, blah. We would always have this conversation, but it goes to show you the different generations, really. And that's not to say what she's saying is not valid, but the world has moved on from that. Today, if you lose all of your documentations, if you have the scanned copy, except for some very organizations who are still living in the past, so your scanned copy can suffice for quite a lot that is required. So all of this is to say to us that the employee experience starts before the employee even joins the organization, and it continues all through the journey. It's not just about salaries are paid. We don't owe salaries in this place. That is good. That is a valid one. But what are some of all the other little things? Do you have an organizational environment where when employees come into the organization, they are seen as the enemy? Do we know those organizations where the new hire that comes into the environment, maybe because of their the compensation they're coming into the organization with, so they are now earning maybe slightly above those who are already in the organization, and they're like, what are they even paying that Chidima for? Should be I'm still the one that was showing her how we do things here. It is valid that Chidima that is coming from currently in Africa Prudential, if she moves to join Pamela's organization, yes, we may be using the same software. Yes, we may. I'm coming into an HR role, so I know all the HR principles, but definitely I don't know how things are done in Pamela's organization. So definitely there would need to be somebody who kind of holds my hand, onboards me, and all that. But some employees take that to mean, why can't Chidima not just come in with the superstar and the plenty salary that we're paying her? Why does she need to ask me anything, or this is where to find this and all of that? And Chidima becomes public enemy, and they are treating her, she's the person that nobody wants to speak with or something like that. Those are also part of the employee experience. So what is the culture in your organization? Are your people welcoming or not? So these are the things that you need to also look into to ensure that your employees are getting the best experience, past and present. So what are the future of work trends that are impacting employee experience? So hybrid and remote work models, they are here to stay. Although some industrialists are saying that we need to come back to the workplace physically, but it's something that is here to stay, really. And we're going to need to grapple with for the near future. Employees are going to need to work hybrid. Some employees are going to need to work remote. So what are we putting in place to ensure that they're able to work effectively? Because if your organization is not agile enough for your employees to work hybrid and remote, you would always complain that you're not getting the best from your hybrid and remote employees, whereas you are the problem. What's your performance management process for employees who are not on site? Do you value presenteeism over delivery over performance? If you do that, you would always complain that you don't. Those people that are working hybrid, I don't even know what they are doing. They are just collecting my salary. How are you? But whereas you are the one who is not effectively measuring their performance. AI and automation is currently reshaping roles. So there's this saying to say that AI is not going to take your job. It's the professional who knows how to use AI that is going to take your job. And that is a reality today. People complain about AI. I've actually also thought about it and done a deep dive to say, okay, so I want to type an email today, maybe an email to go out to staff. So in the past, I'll take my time, come up with the email word for word. Dear colleagues, this is what the organization, this is what we're communicating. This is the next step that we expect from you and all that. Whereas today, what I need to do is to just ask ChatGPT to give me an email from the head HR communicating to all staff that perhaps tomorrow is a work-free day. However, employees will be required to resume the ChatGPT will give me an email draft, and all I need to do is to review that and adapt for my organization. So now the question now is, how are we also sure that we're doing this? You know, our brain is a plastic organ that you need to use it, exercise it in order to ensure that it doesn't deteriorate. So if we lean so much on AI, how are we sure that it's not going to impact our own intelligence such that in future we'll not be able to do absolutely anything without AI? Now, the answer that I have for that is the motor vehicle. I'm sure when the motor vehicle was invented, there were probably these questions that, if we adopt motor vehicles in future, we will not be able to walk again because we would want to drive everywhere. But to the glory of God, we're still walking today. We've not evolved to the point where we cannot walk anymore. Yes, I agree, mobility has reduced, but we are still walking. So it's also about how you use technology. We have a multi-generational workplace in the workplace today. I'm sure for most of us that report on our HR dashboard, we report the different generations that we have in the organization. We have the Gen Zs, we have I think some organizations are even having Gen Alphas. If you have interns in your organization, and of course, we have the millennials, proud millennials, who once thought that we were the best thing after since sliced bread, but now we've seen Gen Zs who are calm, were gentle. There's also the increased demand for purpose-driven work. So employees are beginning to question organizations to say it's not just about, are you a profit-driven organization? Are you also purpose-driven? ESG is now a big thing, and it's not just about regulations. Employees also care as well to say, I have a colleague who says, who one time, the colleague is incidentally the head internal audit, and one time he actually said that he's getting increasingly concerned about the all of the refreshments and everything, the TGIF and everything that we periodically that he periodically has to approve on the workflow. And he said, we have a primary school near us, that can we not even dedicate, so maybe even if it's just to split, if the organization sponsors 12 monthly TGIF, can we not reduce it to maybe every other month? And then the difference, we'll use it to impact the primary school next to us. And I said to him, oh, yes, we have a budget for that. And we've actually done some things on we've showed it, this is it on our report and all that. So you see that employees are getting increasingly concerned for their environment, and it is not just as it concerns them. There's also the economic uncertainty. There's when we say inflation in Nigeria, I'm very quick to remind people that it's worldwide. It's a worldwide problem, really. If you reach out, if you speak with your friends, family, and colleagues who are outside Nigeria, they will tell you also that it's biting hard to them. The only difference is that their $10 would be your what, 16,000 naira, But that $10, they know what it will do for them and how long it will take them to make it. So the economic uncertainty is worldwide. There's talent mobility as well. I recently had an employee send in their resignation. He was going to resume school in October. And I was like, okay, so I'm not surprised. It's something that we are also expecting. So we know when school resumes, and we expect that some employees will be going to further their education. And even if they are not going to further their education, if Chidinma leaves from company A is going to need to replace her. So company A will probably be coming to company B to poach Femi, and it's all about that ecosystem. So you know the period where you have quite a bit of attritions because employees are perhaps leaving for brighter opportunities or leaving for academic purpose. Talent mobility is a given right now. It would be very impossible for you to have an organization and you say nobody will leave. Are you a cult? People will definitely leave. So you need to build that into your work plan, ensuring that you have an active succession plan. So what are the strategic HR priorities for all sectors, regardless of what sector you are in? If you are in public, if you're in private, if you are in SME, multinational, you need to ensure that talent attraction and retention is top-notch. Employer branding, like I said earlier in my presentation, that if an employee Googles your organization and they do not find anything, it is a red flag. Every employer should have some form of employer branding that is aligned with organizational values. And it's not just to have a website that is dated. You perhaps go on the website and the information you're finding there is the one from COVID era. No. So employer branding is key. Your website, your social media, what are your activities in the community? All of this speak to employer branding. And then again, there's the workplace flexibility. So what are your hybrid models and for knowledge roles? You need to take, so for example, I always tell people that if you're hiring for tech skills, it's not impossible. Nothing is impossible. You can actually get tech stars that are going to work fully on site. But if you're hiring for tech skills, you have to have that at the back of your mind that you're probably not going to get someone who's very good, who's going to want to come on site 5 days a week. Accept that, work with that. So the next step is now to build in what's going to be the performance management for such an employee. There's also employee well-being and mental health. These days, mental health is very key, and the Gen Zs have taught everybody across the generation, and everybody wants to prioritize their mental health. And it is a valid point, really. We encourage every employee, first of all, just like the organization will do everything to ensure that they continue to remain profitable, every employee should also do everything to ensure that their mental health and well-being is safeguarded. Because as you are your own organization, and you should ensure that you are able to continue to be a going concern. You are able to continue to be relevant in the workplace, and your mental health is one of those issues, one of those tenets that you need to prioritize, really. And there's continuous learning and continuous skill development. I always encourage every employee. I'm an advocate for personal development. Your organization will develop you in line with its own priorities. So, for example, if your organization is going to onboard a new ERP, so they are definitely going to roll out trainings for that new ERP. If your organization is going to go into maybe B2C or B2C sales, they're going to roll out trainings for those lines of business. However, you as Omolara, you as Chidinma, you as Pamela, what is your plan for yourself? You should definitely roll out trainings that are in line with those plans. I know, with training, we're battling with scarce resources. Even with the organization, when the organization is battling with scarce resources, training, marketing, those are usually the first to go or to have their budget reduced. So it's also the same for the individual. You are still looking for money to eat, and then Chidima is here telling you that you need to develop yourself, and you're like, is it not when you eat first that you will even have the brain matter to be able to learn? It is true. It is very valid. But you also, when you think sustainability, it's not just the organization that needs to think sustainability, the individual also needs to think about sustainability, which means that you need to ensure that you don't eat up all of your value today and you not jeopardize your ability to earn better in the future. So you also need to make plans, make sacrifices, opportunity cost, scale of preference. You need to ensure that you also develop yourself as an HR professional, as a sales professional, in line with the future that you envision for yourself. So let's go down to the different sectors. So let's talk about public sector. And I want to see in the chat room, our public sector colleagues that are in the chat room. Can you just please share in the chat room? If you work in the public sector on this call, can you share by um, typing in the chat room public sector so that we see our public sector colleagues that are on this call? So for public sector, as an HR professional who's big on employee experience, the imperative for you is to sell the message. What are the key things, the key value that you get in the public sector? Stability. If I enter the public sector in level 1, so long as I don't do anything that is against the public sector rules, I am guaranteed employment until I clock either 60 years, or is it 65 or 35 years in service. So that's stability. And there's also transparency. There are indications. So what do you need to do to get promoted from one level to the other? You need to write a promotion exam. You need to have upskill, have certain certifications. So there's transparent. It's not. There's also, I know, the IM factor, the nepo baby, that if you know somebody, maybe you can advance ahead of the others. But there's also transparency. You know what you need to do to move from step 1 to step 2. So that is something that is very key in the public sector. So that's also something that you should sell as part of your employee experience. And then there's public service. So for everyone in the public sector, you are not there for yourself. You are there for the public, even though some of our colleagues in the public sector tend to forget this, but you are there for public service. You are there as in whatever parastatal or ministry to make life, to process certain things for the private, for the every Nigerian, really. So that's something that you can sell in the public sector as part of your employee experience. That so for the Gen Zs who are now looking into meaningful work. So public sector is a very great place to do meaningful work, really, because every work that you do in the public sector is public service. So you leverage purpose and societal impact in your employee value proposition. And then, of course, digitize. Please, my colleagues in the public sector, let us digitize our HR services, every other service. And then there's, of course, the structured career pathways and leadership succession plans. So, if you are a deputy finance manager, for example, you know that there's a 99% chance that if your manager moves up the ladder, you are moving into that position, unless of course you do not possess the required skills and qualifications to move into that position. So, and then there's also enhanced collaboration across agencies. That's also something for us to sell. So what is the employee experience that you can sell in the public sector? There's quite a bit. Stability, transparency, public service. There's the purpose really that when you work in the public sector, you are living a purposeful life. Thank you very much to all our public sector colleagues. I see quite a lot of us in the chat room. So the message that you're going to take out from this is that the even in the public sector, you can sell the message of employee experience, which is that there's stability, there's transparency, and then public service. You get to impact lives. If you work in, Pamela, please correct me, what's the Ondo State equivalent of the Lagos State Employment Trust Fund? That's one agency that is very big on impacting life. So even if it's in the police, the police is providing security for the masses. So that's public service, and what you do this while also earning a living. So there's a purpose to the roles in the public sector. And then if you are in the private sector and you work in an SME, I separated SMEs from multinationals and other large organizations. If you work in an SME, please share in the chat room. All of our SME colleagues, please share by typing SME in the chat room. So if you work in an organization that is a small or medium scale organization with perhaps 1 to 50 employees and with a revenue of over how do they classify? I think a revenue of less than, is it 50 or 500 million? 50 million, I think, then you qualify as a small business. Please share in the chat room. So how can you streamline employee experience? How can you ensure that your employees have a very good experience? Because there's a peculiarity with SMEs, there's less structure because they are clearly small and they are iterating as they go on. So today, maybe we are an SME that is geared towards selling wigs. And tomorrow we're expanding. And then we say, okay, so beyond selling, we want to provide other services such as revamping, styling, and all of that. And then as such, we'll now bring in some stylists. Remember that when we were selling, we just needed salespeople. Now that we're providing other services, so we need stylists. So we bring in stylists. And then there's now a different way. The way the stylist will work will differ from the way the salespeople will work. The salesperson just wants to sell, make a sale, and move on to the other person. But the stylist wants to do good work and ensure that if Chidima brings in her wig for revamping, she's not going to complain after a week. So she's going to probably sacrifice speed over perfectionism. So when you are evaluating the stylist, she'll probably tell you she spent a full day on 1 week. And you're looking at her like, what are you doing? Whereas the salesperson sold 10 wigs in a day. So you can see that the evaluation, I've just used this example of a wig business to show that the performance evaluation will probably differ. So what would be priority for certain departments would differ from that of other departments. And as the business is growing, so maybe we grow from selling wigs and revamping, and then we start selling skincare, and then it's different. We need to bring in an esthetician, and there's culture dilution all over again. So for small businesses, small and medium businesses, to ensure that you have a good employee experience, so you need to build a strong culture, even with lean resources, because that's also something that is very predominant with small businesses, because like they say, like the term says, they are small for a certain reason. So they are lean resources, but you can do a lot with very little. It's like when you are every one of us that cooks on this call knows that you can cook a very small pot of soup with limited resources. Maybe you don't even add you don't go all the way to add your meat, your stockfish, your crayfish. Maybe you just do something very small and it turns out very nice. And you're like, if I wanted to do a big pot now, it's probably not turn out very nice. That's also the case with SMEs too. You can also have a very good culture, a very good employee experience, even with limited resources. And you can leverage available technological processes. As a small business, you may not be able to hire all of the customer service agents that your business requires. But I think WhatsApp has this auto response feature that you can also leverage as the first line of response for your customers, such that when a customer sends a message, You send an it immediately sends an auto response, and the customer, based on that auto response, the customer is able to clarify what they need. So that cuts down the time that you spend with the customer, and that enables you to spend a lot more time with other customers. So that's affordable technology that you can put in place. You can also foster multi-role learning and for agile teams. So knowledge sharing sessions is one great way that I encourage all organizations, regardless of your size, whether you are a public sector organization, you're a multinational, or you're an SME. Knowledge sharing session is one way that you can get quite a bit of learning hours under your belt. You can also ensure organizational learning, ensure that, so if Chidima goes for a training today, ensure that Chidima does a training, train the trainer. So she shares the knowledge that she has gained with the rest of the team. And that would really help, such that, quite all right, Chidima is probably not going to be able to share the way the trainer would share. But even if it's one thing that she picked, that is one extra thing that the rest of the team know. And then as you go on, it accumulates, and there's quite a bit of learning. And of course, when you share, it even reinforces for Chidinma. So that would really help you to meet your learning and your organizational learning target, really. It ensures that, so if using the example of the week making organization, so maybe you've had this problematic client, or you've had a customer complain that I bought a wig from you, it was treated, and very soon after that, the wig tangled again. And then maybe Chidema learns how to treat wigs such that it doesn't tangle very quickly. So let Chidema share that with the rest of the stylists. And then that way, you see that learning has happened, and you've also gained as an organization. So focus on personalized recognition, focused on personalized employee recognition. If someone does something great, ensure that everybody knows it. You can just easily send out something on the intranet or print out something for all, and the employee will feel very great, really. Employee recognition goes a long way. And then we come to the multinational organizations. So for multinationals or large organizations with maybe multiple branches, to ensure employee experience, you need to standardize. You need to create a globally consistent but locally adaptable employee experience policies. So even if you're not a multinational, but you're a multi-location organization, ensure that the employee in Lagos has the same experience as the employee in Aba, and the one in Kano, and the one in Ijebu-Ode. Standardize, standardize, standardize. Think global, act local. Ensure that all of your policies are such that can be implemented regardless of whether it's in Bangkok or in Iseyin, in Oyo State. Diversity, equity, and inclusion should be embedded in all of your HR strategy. And then, of course, data-driven HR analytics for talent insights. It's not just how you feel, but it's actually what same thing that is driven by data. So Pamela, I see your hand up. Do you have a question, or are you trying to nudge me about my time?
Yes, I
Okay.
have bouquets of flowers in your chat box. Thank you.
Okay, all right, we'll come to that. We're rounding off already. Okay, and then of course there's advanced leadership development programs that would help your organization and its employee experience. So moving on to technology as an enabler, employee self-service portals are ways that you can implement that would help the employee experience. So the employee doesn't have to come and sit down with you and go through all of their certificates one after the other. They can simply upload it on a self-service portal that you can even automate with Microsoft Forms, or I think Google as well can do that. AI-powered recruitment and learning platforms, e-learning is something that is very key. The likes of Udemy, Coursera, it's actually e-learning that they're using to provide all this learnings. It's also something that we can do inline. Collaboration tools, your Power BI, Microsoft Excel, the online version, Jira, there are lots of collaboration tools that you can leverage that can enable. So I don't have to, when I complete documents, I don't have to complete a document before I can share with you. We can both work on different aspects of the document with collaboration tools. And then, of course, HR analytics would help you definitely, because technology must improve employee experience at every touch point. And because you need to measure, HR analytics is something that is very key. Your satisfaction scores, your engagement scores, your meaningful work scores, your e-net promoter scores, all of this you can get through regular pulse surveys and feedback loops, such that the employee experience KPIs such as engagement, retention, productivity, etc., you can be able to get it through measurements. Listen, probe, restate, ensure that you're not prescribing paracetamol for someone who has diarrhea just because you think, my people, this must be what they need at this time. So you just go ahead and deploy, whereas that isn't what they need. So ask. We need to get comfortable with asking questions and with people asking questions, employees asking us questions as well. So what is the imperative for us as HR leaders? We need to anticipate that the future of work is here already. And like they say in our local balance, we've seen 99 already, Z100 that is now remaining. So based on where we are, you can actually imagine that it can get better or worse depending on the way you look at it. So anticipate, adapt, personalize employee experience strategies. So if Chidinma needs to work remotely to be effective, you cannot insist that Chidinma needs to work on site. Or maybe you just don't hire Chidinma and hire Patrick, who can work fully on site. So you don't try to force a round peg into a square. Collaborate with leadership and with the employees to embed employee experience in the business strategy. And of course, commit to continuous innovation in HR practices. Those sayings like, that's the way we always used to do it. Is it not HR? Is it not HR that we've been doing since 100 years ago? Those are sayings that mindsets that will not take you very far. Continuous innovation, just like with our tech resources, is also something that is very key for us as HR practitioners, because you can say, yes, people are people. It's not the same people in 1900 that we have in 2025 today. That may be true, but there have been innovations, people have moved on, people have evolved, and what was key to them back then is not what is key to them now. So continuous innovation is something that is very key as an HR leader. And you need to implement employee first initiatives. Why do you need to do that? Because when an employee has experienced excellence, they will never be content with mediocrity. And that's a saying, an adaptation of a saying by Thomas Monson. He said, once you've experienced excellence, you will never again be content with mediocrity. So that means that if your employee has experienced excellence internally in terms of their employee experience, they will not be content with giving your customers mediocrity. So when you take care of your employee, they will take care of your organization's mission and your customers. So thank you. I'll leave us with these parting words that I always like to say at the end of every HR presentation. Is a saying by Dave Ulrich, and I'm sure we all know Dave Ulrich. Dave Ulrich says the most important thing that HR can give an employee is a company that wins in the marketplace. It's not just about the skills you've got, it's how those skills will drive outcomes that make a difference in what matters. So it's not about how well we're holding hands and singing Kumbaya and we're saying, oh, we're very happy here. The organization needs to win in the marketplace for the employee to be happy and for the employee to have a great experience. So let's ensure that all of our initiatives are tailored towards ensuring that the organization wins in the marketplace. Thank you very much. I will take questions now.
Thank you very much to our presenter. You did justice to that. You did justice to that topic. I took a lot of notes, but I particularly want to just highlight the fact that you zoomed in on employee experience from the angle of little things, right? A lot of people will focus on the big things, the great things, the things that are in our faces, but as little as the physical space of an employee, as little as just ensuring that they have the right tools, we pay attention to them, as little as getting their feedback on day one and using it to improve our systems. And really also the fact that you were able to capture each industry. So for people who worked in private spaces, SMEs or multinationals, and also that focus on telling the private sector or people that work in the public sector how valuable it is. I've never looked at it from that perspective, where if you want to do meaningful work, just go and work in the public sector and you know that, oh, we are doing this to make everyone better. So thank you so much for sharing the employee experience and how we can craft our value proposition as employers towards our employees and making the workplace a better place. Thank you so much. I want to, we don't have too much time for Q&A, but please, if you have a question, I'll look into the chat box quickly, and or we can just take one person unmute themselves and ask a question. I'll do just one question quickly, and my question would be this. It's coming from the point where you were talking about. It's coming from the point where you were speaking about that the future of work is already here, and we always, as employers, we always focus on the fact that when we are getting people in during an employee acquisition, the first engagement we have with them, we are always looking at, oh, we are interviewing this person to take up this role. We don't look at it from the point of the fact that the employee is also interviewing the employer to see if they are able to align their goals or their values with yours, and they're able to sign up. So from just that perspective, what else do you think that as HR we can do differently, either for people who are directly in HR or people who may be hiring managers who support HR roles? What can we do differently to ensure that we are not leaving anything behind when it comes to crafting and effecting and implementing a good employee experience?
Okay. Okay, so I'll respond to that question like this, to say clean house. Clean up your house. You need to ensure that you have a clean house before you onboard an additional employee. And so in cleaning house, there are various things. So what's your culture? How is that enabling a great employee experience? Your processes as well, are they obsolete? Are they frustrating? So you need to ensure that your processes are also enabling a great employee experience. And then your people as well, and your people management practice. So what's your performance management practice? How is it enabling a great employee experience? So it goes the little things really. Is there transparency? If I'm joining as an officer on a certain level, day one, I need to be able to look at your career management framework to say, if I want to make MD, this is how long it will take me, and this is what I need to do to ensure that I can make MD in XYZ number of years. But if it's shrouded in secrecy, I don't know what I need to do to get promoted from point A to point B. That is already a dissatisfier. And it would also, that also speaks to a culture that is not well enabled for a great employee experience. So clean house is the way I would respond to that question, to say that you need to have a clean house in the little things, in the big things, your processes, your practices, everything needs to speak to a great employee experience. Even the work tools, the office space needs to speak to a great employee experience.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much. I will be taking the rest of the questions after the next presentation. So please, if you still have questions for Chidima, kindly put them in a chat box and we will take them at the end of the next presentation. We thank you so much for obliging us and having this conversation with us. And I know that everyone on this call has also learned a lot. On that note, we'll transition to our next